Hey, what's up guys, Shuckle King here, bringing you my draft analysis for the NCP Summer Slam. The Summer Slam is a tournament style, so single elimination. So if I lose one game, this team is going to be done. So hopefully this team builder is more useful than just for one battle. We'll see about that. But anyway, before I get more into this, if you guys consider giving a like, I definitely appreciate the support, and maybe giving a subscription. Definitely appreciate everyone's support on the channel. I know I've been uploading a whole lot recently, but hopefully I will be able to change that in the upcoming months. So yeah, hopefully this team can do pretty well, and I think it has a decent chance to do well. There's a range of some newer players that I haven't played before, or maybe they're experienced players and I haven't heard of them or played them before. Some NCP coaches and some Wi-Fi coaches that aren't in the NCP. So it's a cool mix of coaches that we have here. And as a NCP member, I'm definitely trying to rep the league, and hopefully I can do pretty well. Hopefully one of the NCP coaches is able to win this, but we'll see. But yeah, anyway, the 4 draft pools of 8, so 32 total coaches in this. So with only a draft pool of 8, we only also got 8 months to pick from, and I believe it was 90 or 95 points. And let me see. It was 90 points that we could pick from. Yeah, so that's like an average of about 11 to 12 points per month, so that's a pretty decent budget. You should be able to get some pretty decent months with that much money to spend for only 8 slots, and we had to draft 8 slots. And with third pick, I imagined I was going to get something pretty good. Now, Dragapult and Urshifu were banned, like I feel like they normally should be, but with the first 3 picks, I'd probably consider getting Mew, Garchomp, or Tornadus T. If any of those 3 lasted, that would be great. There's also Zeraora, Zygarde, and Telestila that are also in the most expensive tier, but I would probably wait to pick those up, though you guys know how much I like Telestila. So Mew was picked, and then Zygarde was picked in my pool. So it was left with Garchomp or Tornadus T. So I decided to go with Tornadus T. I've had Garchomp before, and it's definitely a cool mon, but Torn T is probably regarded as like the 3rd or 4th best mon in Draft League. Really depends, especially with Dragapult and Urshifu both being banned in this. You could probably say Mew or Torn is the best mon in the format. So with Mew being on, which I probably would have picked if it were there, Tornadus is a pretty solid choice with the 3rd pick. Tornadus has pretty okay stats. It has 121 base speed, which is great. It'll outspeed a lot of the meta, though Tornadus definitely doesn't want to run Scarf generally, but I'll have to try to get some other Scarfers that could be fast. But 110 special attack is pretty decent, 100 attack is okay. But in this generation, it got Nasty Plat. So Nasty Plat's a really cool addition to Torrent's arsenal, firing off Hurricanes, Air Slashes if you don't want to miss, but I'm not going to miss, it doesn't matter. Heat Wave, Focus Blast, it's a lot of moves that could miss, so, but they're the very powerful moves that Tornadus gets. So Dark Pulse as well if you don't want to miss, I suppose. So yeah, Tornadus with the Nasty Plat, just really nice versatility there. But it doesn't have to be a setup sweeper. Well, first, it can set up, and even if you do miss with Hurricane, you can just switch out and regenerate that HP because you generate a 30 for HP every time it comes back in. And especially if you have heavy-duty boots, you can fire off Hurricanes, and if you hit, that's great. And if you miss and you take some damage, you can just switch out and try again later. That's I had a Tornadus Incarnate version for APA, and that mon was cool. It was definitely able to set up and go away, but with Tornadus Eye, because he didn't have Regenerator, I can only fire off a Hurricane if I got like a free switch in, or if I knew my opponent's going to switch. Then I could fire off a free Hurricane, and if I missed, I had to switch out. I couldn't really take much damage. Or I set up a Nasty Plot and hopefully a Hurricane like sweeps at that point. So Tornadus Eye is also a good sweeper in that regard. But Tornadus T, I think, has a lot more flexibility or a lot more leeway in case if I miss a Hurricane, I can come back later and maybe sweep later. But you don't have to go Nasty Plot. Obviously, the original set, even from like Gen 6, is like U-Turn, Knockoff, Hurricane, Toxic. Like, that's also a pretty standard and pretty solid set right there. You can knock off items, which obviously knockoff is one of the best moves in the game. Getting rid of items that could catch you off guard with whatever your opponents are running. U-turn for momentum. Hurricane, again, for a pretty nice, powerful move. toxic to hit walls if you don't want to run nasty plat. You could also run taunt for a similar effect to make sure like bulky mons aren't going to set up wishes or so. You could even run nasty plat on this side, I suppose. Mon also has defog, so if I wanted to use it to remove hazards, that would be great. So Torn can fit in a lot of roles. It's also a really nice sponge. Could be assault vest, but I'm probably going to run boots a lot just because boots are just such a free item this generation for Torn. So I like this first pick. The next pick around, I just want to pick the best mon available. Celesteela was there kind of crazily, but I didn't really want to pair another electric weakness with Torn. But I was okay to pair an ice weakness, so I got Landers instead. I really like Landers. Celesteela, if Celesteela was there in the background for pick 3, I probably would have gotten it. It would have been triple flying, and then I could have built around handling electrics and handling ices and rocks. I would have been able to pick my last 5 to handle those, but that would have been a fun core. But Landers, really solid as well. Staple OU mon, one of the best mons out there. Base 145 attack. Even if you don't invest in it, it's still going to hit super hard, especially with Earthquake. It's a pretty spammable move outside of flying types. And if, I guess grass types, but you have U-turn for those. Fly is not as great of an option as opposed to Gen 7 because you don't have the Z moves. I guess you have Power Herb if you really wanted to go with like a mini Z move fly lander set, but probably won't happen a whole lot. But Landers, similar to Torn, has a lot of versatility. It could be a defensive mon with knockoff, U-turn, Earthquake, Stealth Rock. It could be a set like this. You could have Defog on this set as well, so I have 2 Defoggers. Now I have a Stealth Rocker. Double momentum, double ways to remove items. Knockoff, you definitely want to draft at least 1, if not 2, knockoff users on a draft, especially for 8-man. You probably want at least 1 or 2 good users. Sets I have there, but I also have the options to set up sweep similar to Torn with sword stands, with rock polish. Even with Calm Mind or bulk up, they're probably going to be used a little less often, but sword stands, especially with base 145 attack, there's not a whole lot of things that take a hit. So Landers plus Torn, really cool combination. Weak to ice, not that weak to rock, because Landers with Intimidate takes on a lot of physical rock types. And special rock types, I guess like Neolego, I'll be able to get things to handle Neolego. So Landers plus Torn seems like a really cool combination. The third pick, I knew I wanted this mon for a while, and I saw Vepsis pair it pretty well with Torn, and that is Galar Loking. For 12 points, I felt like it was pretty good value. It gave me a grounded poison, not that I really care about poison types anyway, with Tornadus and Landers not being affected by toxic spikes. But it's always a plus. But Regenerator, yet again, can switch out between Torn and Slowking, and if I get any future Regenerator mons, just to continuously recover a third of your HP. Seems not that bad. Slowking's probably going to be running either some type of Berry or Assault Vest. With a combination 95 HP, 110 special defense. It takes hits really well. And you don't really need Slack Off on a lot of Slowking sets because it has Regenerator, so I'll be able to get that HP right back. You could slack off, but I feel like you're missing out on an opportunity to utilize this base 110 special attack. That's also pretty high, especially has pretty decent moves like Sludge Bomb, normal psychic moves including pretty powerful Future Sight, base 120 special attack. Just have to watch out for dark types, but hopefully I can handle dark types okay with this team. And it has really, really good coverage. Fire coverage, grass coverage, ghost coverage, water coverage, ice coverage. Nasty Plata has as well, if I want to try to set up. So I got 3 setup sweepers. Maybe go with like a Trick Room setup set. So definitely have options there. Just an overall really, really nice pivot. It could be my ice resist, honestly. Rock resist, it doesn't handle physical hits as well, but it could take them on, especially if it has a berry. It could probably take any one physical hit, even like a pretty strong attack. So yeah, these 3 should be a pretty nice bulky offense core because all 3 can set up. So far, all 3 can be pretty defensive, take hits. Lander's usually more physically defensive, and Slowking and Torn usually more special defensive with Assault Vest. And the first 2 mons also have momentum. The fourth mon I picked, I just wanted a general overall pivot to whatever. It also handles ice moves, and that's Melodic. It doesn't handle Freeze Dry. And that's going to be a weakness of this team is I don't have a Freeze Dry resist, and I'm not going to be getting one. So, like, there are 3 Kirums that were drafted. That's really the only one I'm worried about running freeze dry. So I do have to watch out when I face Kirum. But Slow King should handle basically any Kirum hit fine. Earth Power, Draco Meteors might hurt a little bit, but I should be able to take it on okay. And I don't have other mons in the team that can kind of take hits. But Melodic, just Generation getting Flip Turn is really nice. Just gives it a way where it's not as passive. It has Haze, so it's like kind of not passive in that regard, and also Dragon Tail to phase out any sweepers, but Flip Turn is nice to get momentum on its own regard if I don't want to stay in. Usually gonna run, almost always gonna run leftovers on this. Marvel Scale is an ability if I can run Flame Orb, but it's usually not worth it because you're taking rocks damage plus you're taking chip from your Flame Orb. It doesn't really seem worth it, especially because you're not getting any special defense boost either, and you're not getting leftovers, so that kind of seems tough. I could also run heavy duty boots. Depends on if I want rolls to live 2 hits or something. I could see either of those happening. Maybe competitive could be an ability I run as well if I try to hazard stack. I'm not going to be getting spikes in the team, but I will have rocks, at least with the landers you see. So maybe if someone wants to defog, I can bring in Melodic, get a +2 special attack, and I can fire off okay hits. That's Base Hunter special attack, so it's not terrible. Go for Scalds, Ice Beams. They're probably the 2 most common attacks I'll be running with this, but it's probably going to be something with Recover, Scald, Toxic, Flip Turn. That seems like a pretty solid set. Could also be Ice Beam over one of these moves. Could also be, what's the Refresh. It's one of these moves down here. I'm pretty sure it gets Refresh. Actually, Refresh might have been a move that was banned from Gen 8, so won't be running Refresh sets, but I can run Rest sets, honestly, and that's fine. There's also some niche moves. They got Dragon Dance, they got a Triple Axle, so maybe we'll see some crazy Melodic sets, but probably not. This will just be a general pivot, could take any hits, especially Ice Assist. That was the most important thing, because Ice hits Lando and the Torn. So 5th Pokemon on my team, and I knew at this point, honestly, the rest of the mons, and I wanted, and I felt like I wasn't going to get snipes. So I was pretty happy with that. The 5th mon is Steelix. So another snake to go with Melodic, but Steelix really solid on the physical side. A 2nd ground type, so electric types, are going to be pretty hard to bring against my team. Yes, I have Melodic, and yes, I have Torn, which are going to hit super effectively, but Lando and Steelix should handle electric types pretty well. Especially because most electrics don't have ice coverage, so they can't really kill Landorus with 1 hit. Some have Grass Knot, and that'll do okay damage to Steelix, but it'll be neutral at least. And it's also neutral to Landorus, so I should handle electric types pretty well. The only thing would be like Raikou with Scald would be a little annoying because it hits the Steelix and the Landorus, but outside of that, should be fine. Also like Raichu, but that's an unknown anyway. Early bulky and when sturdy, guaranteed to live 1 hit to get Stealth Rocks up. Which seems pretty nice. Steel types are probably the one type I would say are like mandatory to get on just about any draft just because it has so many resistances. And Steelix is just very physically bulky. It can run a little bit of Spadef if it has to. It's not the greatest, but you could run something like this if you wanted to. Could also be a little bit offensive. Now it's not, I wouldn't call this mon like a really bulky offensive mon just because of sheer force and life orb. But you can fire off Earth Powers, Crunch. You could deal some okay damage with Steelix in this regard, but for the most part, you're going to run Sturdy, Stealth Rocks, Earthquake, Heavy Slam, Toxic. Maybe something on the lines of this with leftovers. Seems like a pretty solid set to just generally take on a lot of mons. So the last 3 picks, Slow King, Melodic, Steelix, forming like a defensive core. I guess Slow King plus Steelix are weak to Earthquake, which would be a little problematic, but I do have Torn and I do have Lando, so not that problematic there. Otherwise, I don't think these types really share any weaknesses, so that's great there. And Steelix is weak to fighting, but I have a lot of fighting resist already, so not worried about that. The next mon I got is only 2 points, but I felt like it was really nice values for what it provided. An Electabuzz gives 105 base speed, which is going to be the 2nd fastest mon that I draft on the team. It's the 2nd mon over base 100, which is pretty clutch. An Electabuzz can run Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, probably going to be running something like this every week. Psychic, not Psybeam, Psychic, and maybe like Grass Knot. Does it get? It doesn't. It doesn't get a whole lot of special coverage. It gets Teleport, which is kind of cool. But mainly it's going to be here for a 2-point mon that's an electric type that can Volt Switch on bulky waters. So I don't deal with bulky waters the best. Like Steelix doesn't handle them. Melodic can Toxic, but then I get Toxic back, and then it's kind of meh. Slowking is pretty good, especially if it has Nasty Plot, can break through bulky waters. But in theory, if I don't have Nasty Plot, I have to rely on like Sludge Bomb and probably crits to kill bulky waters. Though I could just sit on them all day, especially if I have Slack Off. Landorus, kind of tough for it to beat bulky waters, and Torn can beat bulky waters pretty reliably. But this gives me a more immediate response than like Tornadus to do so. I imagine they're either going to run Choice Scarf or run Eviolite about 99% of the time on Electabuzz. Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, pretty much the only two moves I imagine I'm probably going to be clicking with this mon, if I bring it at all. It's only a 2-point mon, but I feel like for 2 points, great value. Base 95 special attack, nothing to scoff at, and 105 speed, good for base 100s. Next pick what I got is Barbarical. This doesn't really help with breaking bulky waters, but if bulky waters are dead, then Barbarical can really go in on teams. This also is off my 4th ground weakness, but I also have 2 of like the best ground immunities, and I'm also getting a 3rd one with my last pick. But Barbarical can, well, first it can set up Stealth Rocks in theory, so I have a 3rd Stealth Rock mon, which is nice. You don't need 3 for 8 mons, but getting a 3rd, always a plus. So I could Stealth Rock with this. I could be Choice Scarf, and add speed almost anything that's not Scarfed, which is great. That'll bring me to outspeeding at least like Tornadus. I don't think I'd outspeed Coco with that speed, but I would force it to run max speed if they wanted to run that, or if they don't run max speed. Then I probably would outspeed with Barbarical. So Scarf isn't that bad, but Shell Smash is probably the most threatening thing with Barbarical, especially with Tough Claws, to get my contact moves getting a boost. So like, what's the water move? I'd probably run Liquidation. Can run Earthquake, which doesn't get boosted. Stone Edge, which doesn't get boosted. X Scissor, which hits grass types, which can be a little bit annoying and also can't miss, and also gets the Tough Claws boost. So this mon, if it can set up a Shell Smash, can be pretty threatening. So it's just a mon that I might not bring a lot, but it's going to force prep for sure. It's going to force teams to make sure they don't lose the Barbarical. Probably force the bulky water to come, which they would probably bring anyway. Has some cool moves as well, but we'll see if we utilize them later on in the tournament. And the last mon, which I figured no one was going to get, and I think it was only drafted by one other person, and I was kind of surprised, but Hydreigon is just really nice and fulfills a lot of roles. And it gives a Dark type, which it's not the most important thing, but it's nice that it takes on Psychic types. So that plus Steelix, I should handle Psychics pretty well. It's a really great Choice Scarf user because it has pretty high base power moves with 125 special attack, plus Drake or Meteor. That's going to hit things pretty hard. And then Dark Pulse is a nice general coverage move, U-turn for momentum, and then whatever last move I want to run to deal damage with. Yeah, it can run Choice Scarf. It got Nasty Plot this generation, so I can again try to set up sweep. Same with Barbarical, same with Slowking, same with Torn, same with Landers. I have a lot of ways to like try to win the game outright with 5 different mons. So that's definitely something threatening. And I'm probably going to run at least 1, if not 2, setup sweepers every game with this team because I have so many options in that regard. It has Roost, so reliable recovery to pair with the Melodic and to pair with the Slowking, as well as Regenerator from Slowking and Regenerator from the Torn. So I'll be able to stay healthy with my team. Choice Scarf, Nasty Plot. It also has Scale Shot as a way to boost its speed. Can also go physical, not as often, but it can. Tailwind, Taunt. The downside is it doesn't handle fairies that well, but Barbarical should live 1 hit even if I don't have White Herb on fairies, and then probably kill him in return. Steelix handles fairies with really no issue. Melodic can trade Toxics. Slowking obviously is like one of the best fairy answers in the game. Lando and Torn should also deal a lot of damage to fairies, so I'm not too worried about fairies with Hydreigon. It also gives me a third ground resist. So I drafted Steelix, Electabuzz, Barbarical, and Slowking, which are all weak to Earthquake. So we got 3 immunities to counteract that. And yeah, it's also a Grass resist, which Landers doesn't really want to deal with. Also an Electric resist, which Tauren doesn't really want to deal with. It's another Ice weakness, so again, really have to rely on Melodic and Slowking to handle Ice types, but I think I'll be okay. So yeah, that's my team. I'm really excited for this, and I feel I just really like the offense, the bulky pivots I have in his team. I have a lot of options to run with this. But yeah, we'll see how this tournament goes. Hopefully it lasts more than one game. But yeah, until next time, later guys.